Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast, all you sassy Latinas. This is where you come to hear stories that resonate with you, help you discover your true cultural identity, tossing off the need to fit in, and standing out with your authenticity, because that is your superpower. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, and also the creator of this content. If there's anything you'd like to share, please reach out to us on our Instagram social media at Lifelinks, that's LNXX, or through our website at thelinks.com. Of course, come here for some love and chat sessions with our fab guests from the comunidad. Sit back, have your cafecito, maybe some vino, whatever you like. We are bringing the sisterhood to you. Hola, chicas. Welcome to the Lifelinks podcast on this glorious first day of summer, Wednesday, June 21st, the longest day, literally longest daylight you will have of the year. So I hope you're listening to us outside, joining that fresh summer air that you've waited so long for. Maybe you're going after some spontaneous gathering with your amigas. Make it casual, just reconnect. Get in with some company and give yourselves time and space to reignite your creative thoughts and dreams. Focus on your joy and feel the good vibes rushing in from being together again. We have to always remember to make space for that. I'm your host, Consuelo Crosby, wishing I was part of any of those spontaneous gatherings, but I'd love to see any pics you have. So go ahead and tag us on social media at Lifelinks. We love to see the comunidad together, enjoying life, enjoying each other. I might even have to make a run for some of Stephanie's delicious helado from De La Creamery. Oh, she is showing off all the luscious flavors of the summer crops that will soon be creamy deliciousness in her stash. She's got strawberries showing. She's got the elote she told us was coming, the pineapple sorbet. Getting into that summer groove so fully now. So if you've been following us regularly, you know today is a Pod Club episode, a shorter version of our typical interview episodes where we deep dive into those and pull up the gems that are really illuminating and resonate with so many of us. Because when you hear these stories outside of your own mindset, outside of your head, and you really sit and listen to what these beautiful mujeres have been going through and the lessons we're learning from what they've discovered works, hearing it from somebody else really helps recognize it in ourselves. Because so often we become so used to who we are that we don't question it. And like many of our guests have said, we just keep going and going and going, and we don't stop and reflect. But once you realize that others experience common situations, similar maybe to yours, or identify specifically what it is when we individually maybe couldn't put a finger on it, then it creates a comunidad of empathy, of commonality, and of support. And that's what this podcast is all about. Before we get into last week's episode with Valeria Aloe, author of Uncolonized Latinas, Transforming Our Mindsets and Rising Together, I have some info for you, some little updates of our show. This is the last episode for season 4. Can you believe it? We are already half a year in and one season down for 2023. We have had so many amazing mujeres that have lovingly shared their life experiences and guided us through their journeys, claiming their successes after so much struggle and yet so much joy and jubilation, giving us a chance to really honor them and celebrate them. This is the podcast, ladies. This is where we lean in and embrace the women who define our Latina culture and community, because you are all a bright, shining light individually, and your journeys and your stories are epic. And when we all gather in one place, speaking our truth, we become a brilliant light that cannot be overlooked, dismissed, or blacked out. We are here to stay, and we are here to be in power. So with season 4 ending, as of today, on this first day of summer, we're taking an actual summer break. And during this month, yes, I'm taking off a month, we will be posting 15-minute segments of season 4 episodes so that you have some refreshers and reminders during the break. Or maybe you missed an episode and this will give you a chance to have a little sneak peek, a little trailer, and you can go back to the actual long episode and listen to the amazing story from the guests themselves. So keep following our social media at Lifelinks for updates and what's being dropped, plus some teasers of what's coming, because season 5 is going to start right at our 2nd anniversary. There's going to be major celebrations because that will also be right before, 28 de Julio, where we celebrate Peruvian Independence Day. All the good things are going to be wrapping up when season 5 begins. So hang with us through the break, share it with your friends, and get everybody subscribed and following so that when season 5 starts, bam, there it is, right in their listening device. So let's get back to season 4 while it's still here in our Pod Club episode on Valeria Aloe. Oh, what a light. I just loved her. Let's do her right by highlighting her brilliant courage, both throughout her life, but especially in sharing her story, literally during the interview, with such vulnerable emotion. I listened to this episode multiple times, more than typical, because I listened to the raw format, which really, we're talking for like 2.5 hours. You're only getting less than half of it, but I'm fortunate to talk to these beautiful women for a longer length of time, as though we're talking over cafecito, and you really get to know them. And even so, I listen to Valeria's so often, because when she would say one sentence, like her grandmother was so petite that she stood on a stool in the job that she did working in someone else's home, I just wanted to take that moment and try and visualize what her little abuela would look like and how loving that person was to persevere for her family. So I really wanted to appreciate what she went through growing up, surrounded by this family who were out in the country, in a small town, and then what it was like for her to move away from that, to go to the big city of Buenos Aires, in her beloved Argentina, and then on to the U.S. And her loving personality just really came through, and you could hear how painful it was for her to leave her family. And like many first-gen Latinas, she also knew she had that brilliant intelligence to move into a different life, a life that would offer greater financial well-being and in turn be able to help her family back in Argentina. That's where you realize it isn't about any individual who's lacking. It is about the opportunity and the circumstances, the systemic and the cultural circumstances that either break open so that any individual can rise in their own success or have to move to a place that has more open freedom for that. Valeria was all heart, all dedication, and that hard work with absolutely no guidance. She was the first one to go to college, the first one to move away. And like so many first-gen vidas, that perseverance and resilience is phenomenal. So phenomenal. Yet, it also creates this unhealthy strength beyond what is natural to a healthy lifestyle. So many of you carry it. So many take this as just normal. But it can just run you exhausted. It's not sustainable. And Valeria realized that. Unfortunately, in a really tragic way, she hit a very, very hard stop. That was due to this conflicting messages she spoke of. And she identifies these messages as interferences. Because it's true. They cause interference in your life You hear that so well in her story. Now, the conflicting messages are coming from the Latina culture and what Latinas are raised in, like the lessons they're taught, the rules they're taught, the expectations they're taught. But then that conflicts with the U.S. society in what is expected. You're expected to work hard. You're expected to dedicate yourself to the job and sacrifice yourself in order to rise in success. But as a woman, and we all know this, as a woman, there are so many barriers. Barriers to equal pay, barriers to maternity leave, barriers to empathy with the difficulty of being a professional woman in this country. And that all pushes us to that brink that Valeria just describes so well, that you keep, well, at least I kept like coming forward in my chair, leaning in, like it couldn't possibly get any worse, Valeria. And then it did. You couldn't make that up, what she went through. Now, this mixed messages, these conflicting messages that many first-gen Latinas face here in the U.S., they're not meant intentionally to do harm. Like what we were raised in, mostly by the community of how they identified themselves. It wasn't necessarily to do harm, but it was also that they were in their own time. So culturally, many messages or interferences are rooted in the past, right? They're being passed on, and that past doesn't necessarily identify at all with what's going on right now, especially for women. For instance, culturally, a woman's role is caring for the home and the family. And even if there's representation in professional roles, there's usually additional help at home. There is help with the family and there is help with the home if a woman in another country is working professionally. Well, that flies in the face of what's happening here in the U.S. in the professional system of corporate and capitalistic organizations. Women have only been literally allowed in within the last 40 years. So there's no place that's assigned and as equitable for women to enter into this. And yet the expectation is we should rise and be successful in it. And when we aren't, it's seen as our own failings. And yet it is not our own failings. In either of these cases, it is not our own failings in not being able to meet the cultural expectations of what a woman is supposed to be doing and caring for her home and caring for her children. It is not our own failings when we are not rising in the corporate system in the same numbers as men. It's the systems. It's those two narratives telling you you are failing, when in fact, neither of them allow for you to be successful on your own terms with who you are. And that is what Valeria brings up so succinctly and so soulfully in her episode last week, where she says that you really need to take the time to separate yourself, extract yourself out from those two messages, trying to define what you should be, and sit with yourself often in silence without distraction. Sit with yourself, she says, for 5 minutes, which to me is a lot of time, and really learn and ask yourself who you are. Who is that little niña? Who is the original you that was born happy and intentful and curious and wanting? Because therein lies your power. As Valeria said, that is your essence. That is your soul. There you will have your power, and there you can live in your ordinary life. There you are living on your terms, in your wants, with your abilities, and thriving in happiness. And with that, you will reach success. and success on your terms. It's powerful. It's powerful because it's simple. This convoluted sense of adding on expectation after expectation onto a person beyond who they are. Why are we trying to live up to other people's expectations? Why are we trying to meet other people's expectations when they have nothing to do with us, but rather with them and what makes them either comfortable because it's known to them, or it makes them comfortable because they're profiting from it? And I think the timing of Valeria's episode, as we dive into what she said on this first day of summer, on the day that signifies throughout humanity, this is the time to take a break, to enjoy each other, to spend time out in the world in this long sunshine, if you're on the northern side of the hemisphere, and value each other. Value each other with who you are, bringing yourself forward and gifting it to others in the simple life. Reminding ourselves that the happiness lies in our base humanity, in our gathering, in our dancing, in our sharing of food and music and conversation. Therein is the health and happiness that only we individually can create. That is the power of season 4 ending. Revel in that thought over this break. Step off that hamster wheel, move into who you are, live life on your terms in the way that makes you healthy and happy. That is our goals. Because that is our ancestral knowledge. Don't dismiss our ancestral knowledge and our ancestral heritage as something to move beyond, because it has the wealth that will sustain us and you individually to reach the success that you want. Don't dismiss it as something to move away from, but rather to embrace and carry forward, because that is our wealth. So with that, stay safe, enjoy each other, enjoy this beautiful summertime. For those of you in the Southern Hemisphere, bundle up. We'll see you on the flip side. Remember to check our social media so you see what's going on and stay up to date on the episodes that will drop with 15-minute segments of our longer conversations with these amazing ladies who have shared their stories over the first half of this year. We have more to come in the second half in season 5 that will start up a month from now. And be sure to subscribe and follow the podcasts on any of your favorite streaming devices so that you know when season 5 starts. And you won't miss that first episode because it's going to be amazing. Step into your truth, ladies. Ciao. Really appreciate the time you take to rate and review the podcast. Get the backstory and what you've heard here today and reach out to us at thelinks.com. That's LNXX. Because it's about time, it's about us. Stay in the groove on our social media at Lifelinks and get ready to make your move, ladies. Viva!